All right, so we're back at it again. This is the Bodybuilding Unleashed podcast. We got co-host Chris Kirchhoff, of course, Stephanie Santamaria, and special guest, our friend Coach Andrew Barry. How you doing, buddy?
Good man. Thanks for having me on. How you guys doing today?
Good, good. Yeah, it's been a while, man, since we chatted last.
Yeah, I mean, you know how it is. It's you see people at shows and that's pretty much about it when you're behind the computer, coaching people all day. It's just kind of, you're in your dungeon and then when you go to the shows, you kind of, oh, hey, nice to see you for 5 minutes and then it's on to the next, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I always feel bad, man, because like I mean, you know how it is. You know everyone, you know so many people, and then it's like, well, all right, 5 minutes here, like you said, 10 minutes, and then pretty soon you look over and they're like, oh, I didn't get the chance to say hi. It's just that's just
A-
how it is.
Yeah, add in that like you also got to be present for your athletes. So it's like, it's like, hold on, like I really want to hear the rest of this story, but my guy's gonna break down if I don't get in there and look at his glutes one more time in the next 3 minutes. So
Yeah. I love that. I know you'll probably know the clip I'm talking about where Dusty Hanshaw's he runs into the client and like he doesn't even know the client was doing the show.
Oh, you know
Yeah,
what?
because like
Actually, I got a story like that, but go ahead.
yeah, he was just saying like when we had him on, like he's not concerned about the shows. He's like, it's just we're getting you from A to B and B is shredded. And then when he runs into him at the show, they're like, hey, what's up, coach? I didn't know you were gonna be here. And he's like, oh yeah, that's right. You're competing tomorrow, you know?
Mine wasn't that bad, but mine was a situation where I was going to a show in Connecticut for like four athletes, and I didn't realize this female who lived in like Ohio was, she was competing that same day. I was prepping her for that show, and then I turn around and she's like right there I think it was at the Connecticut, one of the high schools there. And she
Mhm.
turns around, I turn around and she's like right there, and she's like, "Hey, what did you want me to eat next?" And I'm like, it was like a moment stuck in time. I was like, how are you? I thought you're doing the Ohio whatever today. So I felt like an idiot for a second there, but I got another quick one too. I've had
Yeah.
dinner with someone 2 years ago. We were at a big Super Bowl party at some restaurant downtown, and I didn't recognize the guy sitting across from me was a client from like 3 years ago. Like
Oh.
it's one of those things where I felt like so bad because you don't look at people's faces. You're not like examining every detail that you're looking at the physiques and whatnot. And afterwards he was like, dude, I take no offense to it. He's like, I look a lot different now. I shaved my head. I got a tattoo on my neck. He's like, I get it. I'm like, thanks for letting me off the hook.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, it's tough to come back from.
Well, I
Yeah.
think if they went from like contest shape, then they're in an off season, like you said, you change your haircut, like things drastically will change from the neck up then. So, and if you don't,
Yeah.
you're dealing with them from the digital world, like it's not the same as seeing them in person.
100%. That's yeah, so true. So true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So, going from last year to this year, are you being more selective with what shows you're going to, or how does it look like with your roster of people?
I say that every year that I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not
Yeah.
traveling unless it's like, because like last year, my wife Rachel, she did 7 shows, right? So
Mhm.
obviously I'm going to those. And it's cool because in Florida, you can stack a lot of like the pro bikini with an amateur or another division that's, because I had somewhere, they were doing, it was like, I had a classic pro, two figure pros, two bikini pros. So that's an easy one, right? And that was a drive down the road. It wasn't like a flight. But like in terms of travel, it's kind of like I play it by year every year. And one thing I don't like to do is I don't like going to USA's. It's just a show I don't like doing. Only been there once. I
Mhm.
like the universe, so I try to go to that one. I like to still support the NPC Northeast, being where I'm from. And then Nationals is always going to have a place in my heart. I just, for some reason, I love NPC Nationals. And it's kind of a place where like me and I don't know if you know Justin Randall.
Yeah, I know who he is. Yep.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends. Like we get together. We had another one of my clients, Melissa Brodsky, stay with us in an Airbnb. And it's just like a group of us all get together, and it's like the last hurrah of the season before, you got the Christmas and you got holidays and you get a little break. Um, So every year I say I'm not going to go to more shows, but I'm like, I'll be at Universe, I'll be at North Americans. I am going to be at USA's this year. I'll be at National. I'll be at, most of them. Probably just not the junior shows.
Sure, sure.
How about you?
Gosh, going off of what you were saying, like let's say the last 4 years, we've been to a lot of shows, man. Like you can imagine, like almost every client show. Like we hit
Yep.
every client show in 2021.
Wow.
And we've talked about it on the pod before. Like we finally had to set up some healthy boundaries, when it comes to like the finances, the bending over backwards for clients when it's like, all right, we got to put ourselves first at some point within the year. So, we started
Yeah.
last year and that was decent. But yeah, we do have a lot of travel plans like for ourselves this year.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't have anyone in USA's right now. It'd be great since it's right here in Vegas.
Yeah.
I would love that. I have one or two people that they may be doing it. But right now it's kind of like wide open. I
Yep.
should have maybe four pros for the Chicago Pro, so I imagine we'll be there.
Yep.
And then I want to put some amateur people on the amateur Chicago show too.
Yep.
So
That's
that's
a
kind of the
pro
one where
qualifier
like,
for some divisions, right?
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like, yeah, okay. Yep.
Yeah, so I'd like to put a few clients in that show, and we've been to it. It's a good show.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, we're kind of just, staying around. I could see ourselves potentially at Universe. I have one girl that's, probably going to do it.
Yep.
But it'll kind of depend to like, it's tough when it's like one person has to foot the bill.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is true. I think so. Personally, I mean, I'll say this out loud. I'm not traveling for one person unless they're going to pay for the whole thing.
Sure.
Like, unless they're a long time client. You know what I mean? Like, if there's someone that's been with well, one of my guys, Ryan Sullivan, he works for me now as well. But,
Hmm.
when he was doing junior nationals last year, it was a no-brainer that we were going to go because he's been with me since like 2017. Like, I'm very invested in his success. Whereas, no offense to someone that's just like first time, we probably just don't have that relationship yet. And every prep means something to me, but it's like it doesn't mean as much as a guy that like I've taken from 175 pounds to 205 in stage. What you know what I mean? There's just something
Yeah.
to it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not saying you have your favorites, but you just have that relationship with people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. And like I got a guy, it's I think this year it'll be like 7 years with us, which is crazy now in this day and age when
Yeah,
you see the coach hopping after every show, right?
yeah,
But, someone like that, if he decides to do it, like I feel like you kind of want to see like the end of the race. Like
yeah.
you've worked so hard, you want to see like them finally succeed, finally get the overall or the pro card, the pro win.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever that final stamp, for some people it's like, you know what, I just want to leave this sport on my own terms, healthy, bringing my best look I possibly could at whatever age that is, whether it's a pro card, a master's pro card, a pro win, or just a pro, placing, or even just stepping on a pro stage, whatever that might be, you know, because I got someone else who was like, you know what, you guys did an episode about Jason Lowe last week, and I think this is it for me. Like that scared me a little bit with, the guy's 38, had a heart attack. He's like, my dad died of a heart attack at a young age, and I've got two kids, and I don't want them to have the same experience I did. And, I've had some fun with it, but it's time to shut it down. So I get
Yeah.
that. And I respect it.
Yeah, I know, it shook up the bodybuilding world. I have a few buddies that kind of said the same thing, like they weren't really sure if they wanted to continue this year.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, everyone's got to be comfortable with their own decisions, right? And I don't think there's anyone out there that can blame naivety on like not knowing that there's obvious some risks involved with what we do. And I just think you got to be comfortable with it. It's the same thing, the conversation I have with females if they want to use PEDs. It's like I can't tell you what or if side effects you are going to get. These are the list of potential ones. We just need to have a see something, say something relationship. And if there's something you're not comfortable with, we need to backtrack and not kind of sweep it under the rug and then wait until there's some resentment or, oh, he made me do it. Like for me, I want people to always be happy with their decisions when they're done at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I want to jump into a few things today. I guess the first one, me and Kirkhoff were talking about this. We talk training every day, all day.
Yeah.
So we're talking about glute training,
Okay.
um, emphasis on glutes. We have to go back to, the 90s, 2000 era. The Cutlers, the Colemans, they didn't do any direct glute work. They weren't doing abductors, adductors, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
What's your take on it? Is it are people overtraining glutes now? Like is it there's too much emphasis? Do you even think direct glute work is needed for we'll start with like the guys with the open, let's say.
Yeah. Um, so it's an interesting question because, and I was literally just talking to Kamal about this the other day because I've been
Mhm.
training with Kamal. His training style is very different than anything I've ever done. I've been more of a, I'm not going to say straight like a DC trainer, but like top set, back off set, and then a little bit of volume work, with some of your accessory movements, that kind of thing, right?
Sure.
Whereas with Kamal, it's just volume. Like every exercise, four sets of, 15 reps or more. And by the time you get up and you're like taking a sip of water, it's time to go again. He's
Mm.
just like fast, right? So we were having this conversation about, you know, what are the kids doing today? Like what are they doing differently? And we kind of like they're trying to make everything so efficient that I think they're not really seeing the forest for the trees. Like when you looked at, say, a Ronnie Coleman's training program, he did for leg day, for instance, 4 or 5 of the hard exercises, and he didn't think about, well, if I specialize in putting tissue right here, or if I specialize in putting my feet just like this, I'm going to get a little bit more sweet. It was just give me the hard exercises, put the weight on, stick in rep ranges that are going to build hypertrophy, somewhere in that 8 to 15 rep range, and just go. Whereas I think they call a lot of the guys today like spreadsheet bodybuilders, where
Yeah.
every little detail is tracked. And I think that comes down from coaching. Some coaches they track, how many bowel movements did you have that day and how much, every variable you could possibly track, right? I I think there's something in the middle there that is appropriate for most people. I don't think it's all just caveman shit. I also don't think it's all spreadsheet stuff. So that's kind of a long way to answer your question. So I think indirectly, people are putting too much emphasis on trying to fix those body parts because a lot of these guys, they just don't have enough training age to have to need to be specific about those deficiencies. It's like just do more time squatting, just do more time deadlifting, do more time doing the basics, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Like one example you guys will know, like when we see Michael Krizo compete, it's
Hmm.
like some of the craziest arms we've seen. The upper body's ridiculous. He
Yeah.
gets bone dry shredded. But then when you see that back double, you're like, wait a second, there's the lacking glutes. I can see a guy like that, like having three,
Sure.
four glute movements to where like, okay, this is a glaring weakness, and it actually is holding him back in the placings.
1000%. I mean, it's really hard to make statements and gauge what the average person should do based off this group of guys that are like these top zero point 0.5 genetic, winners of the genetic lottery, right? So it's like he's probably already done all the hard stuff. He's probably taken every compound under the sun. Probably not as much milligram dose as people think, but he just responds to things better. That's just his major glaring genetic weakness. I don't know if he'll ever be able to fix that. I don't think, I think he should try to do some hamstring and glute dominant work only, but like that might just be something he can never overcome. Whereas, well, it's just like someone like, you mentioned Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman. Those are two of the most genetically blessed specimen ever. Like they just didn't have weaknesses. They just had to keep building and getting bigger all over to become what they were. Crizzo, and that's a great example. Crizzo's a great example of a tier one genetics guy with a glaring deficiency in the glutes that, like I said, I just don't know if he's ever going to be able to fix.
I can't say I've ever actually seen a video of him. Like I feel like, and maybe it's just like how the algorithm works, but every time a clip of him pops up, he's doing an arm movement. And I know that he obviously doesn't just train arms, but it's like I need to go and I want to go see what he does for legs because there might be, some answers in there. I feel like training has taken this like we've made things so complicated. And part of it's like the rise of the rise of the online influencer, right? Like how you gonna get clients, or if your specialty is you coach somebody in just training, well, how do you reinvent the wheel? Because there's only so many ways. You get your low volume, and you got your variations of that, like guys that do like the Dorian Menser. Then you mentioned DC. I've done that before. Then you got a lot of what Andrew, what you mentioned, I do now, where it's like you do kind of a heavier set, you do a back off. I kind of consider myself more like a moderate volume. Then you have guys that still train, probably like the guy you mentioned who trains like Cutler. It's like 30 sets and
Yeah.
everything's, reps. And it's like, that's really it. And then for some reason, and I feel like it comes down to trying to make a name for yourself or make money or get clients, that now we start inventing all these programs. Now it's, you only need 3 sets and it's like 4 to 6 reps is best, or it's all this. I think what drives me crazy is like just the weirdest shit you'll see. Like some of the exercises to me just become like so strange. And Chris knows this well. Like one of the body parts that the hill that I die on is back training. And I'll literally find a guy, just he pops up in the algorithm and he'll have his little carousel of like his back training. It's 5 lifts. Before I even check his back, I'll send Chris the video and I'll say, I bet this guy has no back, no density, no whatever, just because he hasn't done one single like, compound old school movement. He's never deadlifted, he's
Yep.
never barbell rotated. We're on our knee doing all the one arm shit now,
Yeah.
like acting like a lat pull down doesn't actually activate your lats. And sure enough, like there's this deficiency. Glute training became like this very, I feel like, specialized thing because you can tailor it to women, right? If
Yeah.
half the people out there training, competing are women, and they know that glutes are important. Well, now here's my like, and I see people like my glute, specialty program, or there's a company out there and they make great equipment. They're called Glute Builder. They have like 9 machines they make. It's all they
Yes.
make. All they make are machines for glutes. But like, back to the original question, and this is what Chris and I were discussing. I said, well, I never used to do any of that because we didn't have any of these machines. And when I used to do volume and I did, like deep back squats, like my would get sore, deep hack squats, lunges, split squats. When I do direct glute work, I almost feel it more like where the hamstring ties into the glute than your actual like, glute medius. And I just wonder if people actually like ponder what they're doing and how they feel the next day, or, like before we had all these machines, it's like watching and it was usually like a female because you can get really strong where they take the free weight barbell, you take the little neck roll, and now we're doing the hip thrust against the bench, and they've got 5 plates on there,
Yeah.
and we're doing 5 plates. It's like, yeah, it's great, but you can't deadlift 225. You probably can't back squat 185 to depth. Why are you doing a 495 hip thrust when you can't do
Yeah.
this stuff? Like we mentioned Coleman, well, he's out in the parking lot doing walking lunges with 225. I don't think the last time I saw somebody do walking lunges with a barbell on their back anymore. Now it's 7 of these like specialty glute exercises. It just seems bizarre to me.
I, I will say though, for the in the women's divisions with like what I used to say, 10, 12 years ago before bikini, before wellness was around, but before bikini became what bikini is today. Like there's been a level up of the last 2 years in pro bikini that's just in amateur that's just out of this world, right? Remember like when we first started when bikini came out, it was just a girl that could kind of get in shape and hit the poses. No disrespect to the early winners or anything, but that's what the division called for back then. And my advice to my female clients then was like, you ever seen a super heavyweight that still squats have small glutes? And so my thing back then was like squat, 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 right? It's obviously changed because the women can't have the development on the thighs, they can't have development to the hips. It's really just that glute projection and the upper outer glute with the tie-ins that they're looking for now. So I will say bikini and wellness is a division where it should be much more specific. I think it fits there. Like if you watch all the bikini pros in our gym, including my wife, it's very specific, very methodical. It's different than probably how they started training to build their mass, originally. Um, so I do think that is those are the divisions that specificity is much more needed just to protect the waistline, just to protect the other muscles from taking over. But then, like you mentioned, Chris, the woman that can hip thrust 495, which I'll be the first to say I can't do that with good form. I can't do that, but it's like it creates a lot of imbalances in terms of injuries because I get a lot of women, even if they're not doing that kind of stuff, where we start to have to do reparative exercise because they're just building that crazy glute strength, but now they have deficiency in the back or deficiency in the hip. So it's a whole can of worms of issues that to create a finished product, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree on that with the divisions too. One thing we'll touch on too, since we're kind of on the topic. So I'm talking to Kirchhoff last week, and I think every major podcast has this discussion, whether it's on a podcast or just in the gym. And the discussion with, I guess now the classic and the open is why do older guys like start to lose their legs and their glutes?
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
we're talking about this, and this is why it's important, when it's having a coach, having a second eye, having a mentor, someone to like, guide you along the way. And Kirchhoff's like, I'll tell you exactly why. Yeah, he's like, it's like he saw something that I didn't see, with years and years, almost 30 years of training under my belt. And he's like,
Okay.
well, you're not squatting heavy like you
Yeah.
used to.
Yeah.
You're not doing three. So in my prime, I was doing 315 for 20,
Yep.
for squats. And I
Yep.
was like, I took so much pride in that. And he's like, well, Chris, you're not squatting, you're not deadlifting.
Yeah.
And it was just like this huge light bulb. I'm like, it makes perfect sense now.
Well, we talked about back too, and I was like, legs are like the first thing to fade. Then it's back, where you look at it, it's like whatever you did when you were 20 for arms, which honestly most people you probably like, what you did then isn't what you do now because you're probably like, oh, I was stupid. I used way too much weight, I was
Yep.
ego training. But my point being is whatever bicep and tricep exercises you probably did, you can probably still do now. Although you might not be doing like skull crushers or whatnot. I still do. Like I haven't lost a single, lift that I can do for arms, shoulders whatever I could do then, I could do now. I mean, overhead pressing, in my opinion, isn't the greatest shoulder build. So you look at like your laterals, your rear delt work, anything you can do for chest for the most part. And chest is like, I'm really open with chest where I'm like, you don't have to bench. You don't have to, we have so many great machines now that stimulate chest, but I'm like, so I go back to like the hill I die on with back, where it's like, I look at like the greatest backs we've ever seen on stage, the density that they had, the detail in just so many spots. You look at Phil, you look at Ronnie, you look at Dorian and Jay, you can see the transition that Jay made when he started to do what Ronnie did. And
Yeah.
so then I look at it and I'm like, nobody deadlifts, nobody barbell rows, nobody T-bar rows. And those are the movements that if you did do them, they're going to fade if you start to have lower back issues. And legs are
Yeah.
going to fade if you squatted and like your squatting patterns go. And usually when your squatting patterns go because of a knee or a hip or a back, well, there goes you were the guy that could do 10 plates on a hack squat. Well, now you're down to 4 or 5. And now your leg workout all of a sudden is leg press, leg extension. And it's very basic and it's just not, in my opinion, it's not gonna do the same.
Can't disagree with that. Well, I can't think of a leg workout from the age of 14 to probably 32 that either a back squat or a front squat wasn't the
Sure.
main mover, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, you start to hurt your back every now and then. So you're doing a little more hack squat, but you're still working the squat. And maybe it's not your main movement, but it's like you're doing it at the end, burnout or something, but you're still doing like 3 or 4 plates. And then you get closer to 40. And for me, it was a little bit of back, but it's really my shoulders, despite like I do tons of mobility work. Getting my hands back to a barbell just doesn't, it changes my movement pattern so much that it's like this is just unsafe. It's not worth it. Even using a Smith machine and taking my wrist straps and hold them out in front, more like a buffalo bar, or what do you call it, a safety squat
Safety,
bar.
safety bar, yeah.
Yeah, even then it doesn't feel like the same. So yeah, you're 100% right. You're not doing the exercises that built it. I do think also, I don't know if you guys have experienced this. Um, just back injuries over time, the compression, like my left calf is completely gone. Not from tearing it or anything, it's just from the nerve transduction. It's just not getting to it. So that gastroc is just like over the last 4 years has completely almost gone. It's the
Yeah.
weirdest thing now. And I think the same thing happens with your legs. Your spine is compressed. It's not getting the same nerve impulse that it was getting in your younger years. Despite, I mean, you guys probably all do chiropractic, PT, stretching, mobility, all that kind of stuff. It's like you can do as much maintenance as you want on a 1980, car that has 300,000 miles, but eventually it's not going to work the same as a newer car, you know?
Yeah. A few things that I like there is one, it's a funny story because I don't squat anymore. I had transitioned, like I used to do bodybuilding, then I went to a long time of powerlifting. I've transitioned back to physique training. So like I retired from, the barbell and I was at a gym this is probably like a week ago, and they didn't have the gym that I was training at didn't have a standing calf raise. So I'm like, oh, let's do them on the Smith machine with the step. And I put like, I put like a plate on each side. I'm like, oh, warm up. And I mean, I couldn't even get close to
Yeah.
like getting my arms up there to
Yeah.
unrack it. But I will be like, I'm kind of curious to see what happens in the next like decade or two because leg training has evolved and we're like some of these machines now that we have, like the pendulum squats and like certain different variations of these movements that seemingly a lot of guys are up and coming without they're not squatting. They've never been a squatter and they're still the the machines are mimicking the patterns well enough. They're allowing people to load. So I'm curious to see how people will hang on as they age now and still probably be able to do those movements. Because part of it is like the movements were great that, built us all these squats and deadlifts, but they are like the compression,
Yeah.
the things they put you on and the other thing I liked is like age though, as you get older, it really will reveal certain things that almost become like epiphanies. And I've said this to Chris lately. Like I'm gonna say had because it's finally gotten better, but I had a bad like right knee forever, and from powerlifting and squatting, and I'm dieting right now, and I'm like, why is my left quad so much bigger than my right? And I'm just like, okay, I get it. 15 years, it's actually just it's been doing more work than the left.
Yeah.
It's been doing 55% of the work instead of 50 this whole time because the
Yeah.
right one's been jacked. So, but
Yeah. Yeah. Can't disagree with any of that. We, the closest thing I do to squats now, are you guys familiar with the Watson hack squat?
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how it's got the hydraulic pressure and you can like, almost it's not vertical, but it's like pretty
yeah,
close, right?
yeah.
So I like to bring it all. I love it when the kids are in there and they put it all the way back like this. So they could put 5 or 6 plates on there and rep it out.
Yeah.
And then they just see me go like that. And I'm still able to put 5 plates on there and do some decent reps with it. So they're like, wait, why'd you went all the way up? That's like 10 times harder. And I'm like, I know, I want it harder. Like, I want it harder. You know what I mean? I want to try to simulate a squat movement because that was my bread and butter. I mean, I remember whether it was working with Dante Trudell from DC Training or John Meadows, like squats were in the program every single week. And I loved it. I mean, in high school even, I never had a great bench press. I was a tall kid, lanky, long arms, but like I could squat. So I kind of made my bones on being able to squat more than like my buddies. Well, they were like more the benchers, the overhead pressers kind of guys.
I think there's something to be learned from those three basic movements. Because I did powerlifting for a bit too. After I started bodybuilding in my off season, I would powerlift. And I built glutes and legs
You
with
know,
squatting. And it also brings a sense of like being okay with being uncomfortable and a sense of empowerment that I'm okay with heavy weights. Like, and I think that that's lost on some of the people now starting out that don't want to do those movements. They don't want to be uncomfortable. They want to slow everything down and feel the movement, but they don't want to load to the point that they're so uncomfortable or they're scared of the weight.
Yeah.
But for me, as like a small female, like when I started, I'm 5'1". I range around 120 pounds. I'm not like this huge person. But even at that, when I'm watching other people in the gym, I'm much stronger
you know,
than a lot of my female counterparts. And I credit it to doing the squats, doing the deadlifts, like getting comfortable in those big movements. And I thought it was funny at New Tech the other day. I didn't tell you this. I wanted to deadlift. I'll throw them in here and there to for posterior chain. And I'm looking around and I've never seen anyone deadlift there. And I'm looking around and I'm like, they don't have anything like what's it called? Like the jack type thing where you lift the bar up so you can load the weights on. I'm like, they don't
yep.
have anything. And I'm like, no one here must deadlift. Because this is a big gym with all the bells and whistles. And they don't have that one simple thing. So if anyone deadlifts there, like they're just like old school yanking the bar up and shoving plates on. Um, I didn't end up deadlifting because I
So
was
where
like,
you load by 35s then, so then you keep them off
Yeah.
earlier.
Not a bad idea.
Good
Yeah.
call.
I ended up doing rack pulls and I'm like, I'm gonna ask next time and then I'll deadlift. Like,
If they look at you confused, like a what?
Yeah.
Then you'll have your answer.
They have like everything there, and
Yeah.
I was so confused.
Have you
Well, I
been there,
don't know.
Andrew?
No, I haven't been there. No, but I've heard, it's a great gym. They got a lot of great stuff. What I'm concerned with some of the new tech and even some of the Panada stuff is that it's like making the movements almost too easy. Like like if you can walk into and do an exercise for the first time and put like four plates on something, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about it. You know what I'm saying? Like at least a hammer strength, like you're going against a real movement, a strength curve, right? And you're going against gravity. I played with some of the Panada stuff at a few gyms, and I don't think I've used much new tech, but I feel like, man, you get on some of these things and it's like it's almost too smooth. I know it sounds like a weird complaint, but it's just like how much am I doing and how much is the mechanics of this machine taking all the stress off of my intended muscle? You know what I mean? Or even like some of the supporting muscle that should be helping, you know?
That was the other thing at New Tech. On the leg press, I had like four plates aside, and it's one of those bigger machines, so it's just heavy to start with. And this guy looks over and he's like, "You're pushing a lot of weight there." And I was like, "Well, yeah, they leave the bands on there. They put a sign that says, 'Don't take the bands off the machine.'"
Hmm.
So everybody looks really strong. Because I had
Yeah.
saw a girl doing four plates aside, and this was before I last time I had used it, it had no bands on it. And I
Mhm.
was like, man, when I put two on there, it was really heavy. And I'm like, she's just making four plates look really easy. And then I saw she had the bands. And then the next week they had these signs, do not remove the bands. And I was like, I'm just following the rules. I don't know. Like,
Andrew, I'm just curious your opinion. So do you like I almost wonder like if some of these companies like sounds like a conspiracy, are they develop do you think they develop machines and create a strength curve almost to tailor to people to make them feel like better about themselves? Because like
Well,
it is
what
bizarre. And it's
generation
like
do
I
we
always
live
say
in?
that because like I've tried so many like machines like I the stuff that I brought for my home gym up here, it's like I don't know if you've used anything from Mega Mass. The guy's like
Yeah.
everywhere now. His back machines are everywhere. Why have he replicated before he started kind of making his own stuff, he was replicating like older brands and he made me a flat chest press and an incline press that were replicas of Flex Fitness, the leverage press.
I was going to mention flex. That's some of my
This
favorite pieces.
the
Yeah.
flat one, I mean the flat one, I mean the flat one is so like when you're doing the eccentric on it, it feels like it's just ripping your chest apart. And it's like I usually do it second because I don't want to do it first. And I can get up to, I mean, I've put like three and a quarter on each side. His incline, if I do it first, like two plates for 10, like
No.
it is well known as like the humbler online. Like if you do this thing second or third, you're getting a plate on there. And
No.
it's the same thing. Like the eccentric is just the stretch and how it feels is just incredible. And it's like, then I mean, I have things like I have my hammer strength, and hammer strength is still to me like it's closer to some of this newer stuff where like they kind of become like plate monster machines, you
The
know?
back stuff, yeah, I agree. The back,
Yeah,
like unless you're pulling, you're staying as close to like the machine as
yeah,
possible. If you're leaning back at all, like you're past that strength curve and you're just kind
yeah.
of yanking a little bit. Yeah, I
And
agree.
also like when you get older, it's like now it's like I don't really care what anyone thinks, and I don't like
Yeah,
having to load and unload five, six plates from each side of the machine.
that's dead on.
The
I
the
think.
worst one is I had a Cybex squat press at home. Well, I just left. I would just leave six plates on it because no one else used it. So I was like, okay, this is like the bare minimum, like starting weight because it's like the plate monster of all plate monster machines. Well, now the gym that I go to has one. It's like you get up to like nine or 10, and then I'm like, I've got to take all of these off now, put them
Yeah.
away.
I think as you get older, you try to find ways to make movements a little harder
Yeah,
without having to lug plates across the gym. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Whether
Mhm.
that's pace, whether that's, with your training age, you should be able to lock into like a hack squat or any other movement much better than you did when you were in your young 20s, right? Like you should be able to really feel those fibers working much better. And I think honestly, I think it's a better workout. I just wish like I had that knowledge, 20 years ago, how to really work the muscle, not just the movement. Um, but yeah, no, I was actually going to mention Flex Fit. I love some of their chest pieces. I think those are great. I like the old stuff, no particular brand, I think, has the best of everything. I think there's some good Precor Icarian stuff. There's some good Atlantis stuff. There's some good, even Cybex stuff. Like there's each company kind of had, um, some strengths and weaknesses. And I think to make the best gym, you take like the best of all those different pieces and put them all together.
yeah. And I think it's important too. Like people will get hung up on because I was like in this community of like home gym people where then they're very like elitist. They're like they won't even buy like a replica. They're like, no, I want a flex fitness machine. I want my Nebula, like hack squat and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And but they also like, everyone's got different. You've got different leverages, different your biomechanics, and so like they get tied to certain machines, and then it's almost like it was just like blasphemy to hate certain machines. Like I was like looking for a chess piece, and everyone was like, "Oh, the Atlantis incline." It's the greatest, and I buy it. I had never tried it, which is usually like a no-no. I just despised it. I absolutely despised it because I couldn't find there wasn't a spot where you adjusted it to where the starting point was either too aggressive to where I couldn't start it, or I would start it, but then obviously like every rep after the first one, you can go deeper. So
Yeah.
then it would catch and it would almost like come to a stop. And I didn't like a lot of people like, we get into the nuance of like machines, but like chest, they'll like some people like I don't like that much convergence. Some people like I want as much convergence as possible. I didn't like that it
Yeah.
really didn't converge, like I have a prime fitness incline. I feel like it's like the perfect amount of convergence. So like
Yeah.
I think people need to try a lot of stuff, like so I say like whatever gyms you have, like go to a few, try different machines because you're gonna find like there's a vast difference between how you feel certain things and don't get stuck doing something just because somebody else says it's great.
Yeah. I still do incline Smith, incline bench press almost, or incline
Incline
Smith.
Smith is probably like my staple favorite. Yeah,
Yeah, incline
incline
Smith and then
dumbbell.
flat Smith press is typically almost every chest workout, despite having tons of machines in MI40
Yeah,
that we can use.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. Those two are like I'll keep like a notes in my phone and I'll put like if I just had like the most insane workout or the most insane pump, I always notice I write down exactly what I did because of course we're all trying to replicate it, right?
Yeah.
And I know like for the last couple preps I've done, those two, that was movement two and three. So I'll start with like a fly, just to get things warmed up.
Yep.
And then it'll be incline Smith, incline flat. And like by the end of it, my triceps are so blown up, it's just insane,
Yeah.
you know?
I feel like that's like my A and B workout is like one is incline dumbbell, the other is incline Smith, and then it's like, and I always tell you, Chris, I'm like, I feel like I had this like I went forever where the gyms that I trained at had almost nothing. So I was able to, I had to stay with like barbell and dumbbell work. And then when I had moved to Texas before we moved to Montana, I go to House of Gains and there's, 15 chest machines or 15 of this. And like it overwhelmed me because the
Yeah.
first thing I'm like, well, I want to try these. But then you get into a habit of, I'm like, but they're not all that great. And then I ended up just going back to my old routine where it was like dumbbell, Smith, and maybe like one of the, one or two of the machines that were decent. But you'll see people that like they do four of them. The next workout they're doing four different ones and four different ones, and it's like, where are your metrics for like progress on any level here? Where we're just like we're just picking machines out of a hat each time.
I could get when, someone they move to a new place, they're moving to a new gym. Okay, let me try 3 or 4 different workouts, see which machines I really like to get a stake of the place.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think kind of like to your point, it's kind of like what bodybuilders do after a show with binge eating. Like they don't even like fast food. We're like, oh, there's a Kentucky Fried Chicken over there. There's McDonald's, so I got to get something from everywhere. And it's like you don't even like that food. You just know it's bad for you, so you want to eat it. You want to try it. Um, but yeah, no, I think, there's got to be some, like, because you mentioned metrics, Chris, there's got to be some kind of conducive way to measure, am I progressing? And it doesn't mean you got to keep an exact logbook every time, but I think you should have when you're old enough, you have a general idea. Okay, I've been sticking with the incline Smith press for, the last 8 weeks now. And, maybe I just started a good blast cycle or something like that. And I was doing 275 for 13 for, 2 sets. And now I'm doing 315 for the same reps for 2 sets. That's measurable progress. It probably wasn't like this. It was probably like that over time. But
Yeah.
there's some form of measurement there versus, having 4 different chest workouts and rotating them over 4 weeks or over, a 4 workout period. Well, how are you going to really keep track of what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's shift gears, no pun intended here, but I do, like Andrew, obviously I listen to, a lot of your stuff and we've chatted a while. I don't know if I'd say like people know you for this, but I know one thing that you've liked to use with some athletes is either keeping GH up to the show or even increasing it, like we talked about a while ago,
Sure.
up until the show. Let's talk a little bit about that and kind of
Yeah.
how you determine like who should do that and maybe who shouldn't.
Perfect timing for me to listen to this question.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, so I'm a big believer that when it comes to PEDs, there's some people that respond better to hormones, like steroid hormones, and there's other people that respond a little bit better to peptide hormones, whether it's GH, insulin, IGF-1, those types of things. And also within those subsets, I also think body type or phenotype plays a big role. Like an endomorph, I'm not going to keep GH in past. I'm probably pulling it 3 weeks out, or I
Mhm.
might even not even have them use it during prep. Like I know everyone thinks they have to use certain compounds through prep, but I think as coaches, good coaches, you say, well, wait a minute, is this clouding the look in any way? And then it's clouding my judgment. Let's not even use this compound. It just doesn't make sense. So endos, you're probably not using it unless you just naturally have really good insulin sensitivity, regardless of what we're doing with the diet. I've had 3 people this week that I just said, no, no more GH. Like we tried it at 3 units. Your blood sugar shot right up. You look watery. It just doesn't look good on you. I don't think the benefits outweigh the negatives. But I think for tall, lanky fucks like myself, I think GH is yeah, GH is a godsend. Okay. I was someone that could run, 10 to 15 units. In some cases, I was using a bottle of Serostim a day right into show. And, um, but I think what you're probably getting at is like GH loading, because this is something that um, I can't take 100% credit for. This was John Meadows, where
Right.
he was, he turned pro at 225, 226, something like that, or no, 232. But then he started competing as a 212 under 212. Like, so he's already known as one of the most conditioned bodybuilders out there, but he somehow had to lose and string 20 pounds of water out of his body to get down to that condition and into that to make weight. So we were playing around with some ideas, and I was like, well, you're gonna have to pull your GH. You're gonna have to pull it out because he was good. He used GH quite prevalently, like myself, didn't hold any water on it, but just to make sure we're pulling out all the stops, pull your GH. So he would do that. And I think we were just, I don't know if it was him or me, but we're like, why don't you just add it in the night before or like right after you make weight, you
Mhm.
know? And it was kind of like, that's actually a really good idea. And he did that and he shows up on stage. And I mean, he placed top three at a 212 pro show. Placed top three, top four, five. He was like 2 points away from making the Olympia that one year. Um, and it's a strategy that then we're like, okay, next time you prep, Andrew, you're going to do this. We're going to keep your GH at a moderate level, but then let's add in an extra bottle of Serostim before bed, and then maybe another bottle first thing in the morning. So, and for those that might not know, Serostim is 18 units of pharmaceutical GH. So if I was maybe running like 8 units a day going into the show, then we would compound it with another 18 units right before bed. And the idea is that if you're someone that doesn't hold water on it, then or even if you do hold water on it, it's not going to make you hold water that instantaneously. You're going to get the aesthetic benefit, the visual benefit of the fullness, the roundness that maybe someone who's taller, more of like a true ectomorph lacks. You're going to get that before you actually start holding some water. And I think it's a strategy that paid off fairly well for us. I've had other people try it when I said, don't do this. This isn't a strategy for you. You're not bone dry peeled, so it's not going to work. And they're like, oh, no, I'm going to do it anyway. And then they did it. And then they blamed both John and myself for it not working, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so it's specific, it's case by case, I think.
100%. Yeah, it's one thing that stood out, well, a lot of things, but one thing is like the whole blame thing. It's like it's funny like when someone hires you, they see all the end results on Instagram and this and that, and it's like, hey, there's a lot of factors that could go into this. There's cortisol, there's, like I sometimes it drives me insane when like we had a bunch of people competing last year. I think we had 9 or 10 in one show. And then I find out some of the stuff they're doing the day before, like, oh, I get the women have to do their hair and the nails and all that stuff, but like you're picking up someone from the airport and then you're going to
Oh
this
yeah.
appointment. And it's like, this is not a typical day, the day before, like you step on stage. Like there's so many things that can go wrong here.
Yeah. I think it depends on the person, right? Like I was telling a story on our show the other night about how I literally woke up on a Friday morning, was dicking around, got on Instagram, and I saw that there was a show in New York City that day, the next morning. And I'm like, oh, Steve's judging. This is back in 2017. And I
Mhm.
was like, all right, well, I'm going to get through my check-ins and then I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive down there. I'm going to go to Steve's gym. I'm going to work out, maybe hit the posing room. And then I just literally treated it like a normal day. I'm someone that like I don't get stressed about those types of things. But like you mentioned, other people, especially women that have six different appointments before they even get on stage, the hair, the makeup, the tan, all that stuff. Oh, I'm just picking up my mom from the airport, or I'm waiting for my boyfriend to get here with my suit and my heels, or just all those extra variables. It's like, well, why'd you make this so difficult? Yeah. Um, that's a whole nother egg, you know. But in the blame situation in this one, this wasn't even a client. This was a friend of ours
Yeah.
who called both of us. We talked about it for 30 minutes. We might have even done a three-way, and the consensus was don't do it. And he went and did it anyway. And then he made a big post about how he listened to two coaches who told him to do this and blah blah blah, which is kind of funny. Like, and I'll say this, I don't ever do this with like a first time person. Like this is I want to land the ship in a very moderate way the first couple times I'm with somebody. It might be something to say, okay, is there something I think we can do that can enhance the look? Or is this like maybe you were doing three shows? We did one show, we'll call it vanilla, right? And then we're doing, you know, the second show before a national show to try something different. This would be where you try something like that, right? And it's like you already got your qualification, you already won your show. If you end up getting third place in a class, you're not going to be upset because we tried something completely different. You're not going to lose, mental steam, or you're not going to lose confidence in how you're bringing what you're bringing into nationals. It's just something we're trying out.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I know you'll be able to relate to this, but like, you know, last year we had a few people that just nailed it for prejudging. And you know how it goes. It's subjective. We didn't win the class. Like it
Yeah,
just wasn't our day, right? And, either myself or Stephanie will be like, all right, well, let's take a positive from this. What can we manipulate potentially for the night show? Because they had other national shows planned after the qualifier. So
yeah,
it's like, all right, this is perfect opportunity to see what we can change, to see maybe we can come back even better at night, learn a thing or two, and that way we know we have that information for the next show.
yeah,
And I feel like at that point, it's so hard for clients. Like, I don't know why it's hard. Like, the job isn't done. We have the night show.
yeah.
So it's like, it's so hard for them. Like, is it really that hard to go 4 more hours without binging on whatever the hell you brought?
Yeah.
Like,
I think, well, obviously with age comes wisdom, and as you get like if you can think back to your first shows, you probably ate like shit like after the first couple of them because maybe that's in my case 2001. That's what everyone did. Like you just binged for like 3 days, right? There was none of this idea of keeping it tight, reversing, any of that kind of stuff, right? For a female that can have obviously some very negative emotions where, she's looking very different and people kind of notice and she might think people are noticing. For a guy, okay, you laugh about it with your buddies. I got fat, like no big deal. But and then as you get older though, you're like, I just don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel full. I don't want to be running to the bathroom. I was telling someone the other day, like, yeah, my last show, I think we went and had Caesar salad with salmon on it and like a bowl of fruit. They're
mhm.
like, that's it. I'm like, that's all I wanted. Like,
Yeah.
you just with wisdom, you're just like, I don't want to put things in my body that I'm going to be throwing up or I'm going to feel like it was a mistake the next day. And we're still like that to this day in the off season. Um, where's I going with that? I totally forgot.
Oh, just like, hanging on for 4 hours to like
Oh yeah.
try
Well,
something.
the other thing is like, I tell people because I had a couple first time girls this year and they were crying. They're like, "Well, I thought working with you I was going to win." And they got second. And one
Mhm.
of them she got second to her best friend. I think that's what dug the dagger in a little bit more. And this girl knows that she did everything she possibly could and her best friend really messed around and did not take it as seriously. And I'm like, "Well, here's the thing. Like first off, in this sport, you got to get used to losing a lot more than you will win because that's just the case. Like genetics are the biggest determining factor in our sport. You could be the hardest worker on earth, but if you're going up against Ronnie Coleman, you're not going to go home winning. That's just the case, right? And I also tell you, like, it's just five people's opinions, like it's literally just five people's opinions of what you look like. There's no criteria of you passed, the ball past the goal line more, or you shot a number of baskets. It's literally people's opinions, and other people want to win too. And sometimes it's just their day. It's to me, it's like don't get worked up over it. Like if you were ready to go to the next level, then you would be ready to go to the next level. Like they would everyone would have seen it and it would have been your time. Very rarely is it like a politics situation or oh the judges don't like it because you worked with that coach one time or what. There's none of that. Like they don't even know that shit half the time. They're not paying attention to that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I had an instance with amateur Olympia where, I'll give an example, like my client had just won the overall at this promoter show who happened to be the head judge at the amateur Olympia. And then, backstage we all kind of crossed paths and like we were chit-chatting. He didn't even know who my client was,
No,
you know,
no.
who just won the overall, like who's on the poster for next year. Like that,
Yeah.
like most of the time there's usually no agenda.
Yeah, no, yeah, people like to complain about, when my wife got her pro card, 2017, there were local rumblings around our town. They were like, "Oh, it's because he's in with the NPC," and I'm like, "I am like, if I am, please, like, who do I talk to get more W's?" Because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like first off, Steve has no fucking clue who I am at that point in my life, and neither do the other judges. They could give a shit. I'm just some random guy that shows up to their shows. Maybe they recognize me a few times, but I'm like, really, I am like, please, like, who do I need to talk to like get more W's out of this?
Right. All right. Well, yeah, I got another listener queue. So I know me and Kirkhoff have talked about this. So nowadays, like you're getting more inquiries. It's obviously January where everyone's starting, the resolutions, all this stuff. And we get a lot of people lately where I get it. If you see a billboard enough, eventually you're like, "Ah, all right, what's this about? Like what's this about? Maybe I should check it out."
Mhm.
Driving around here, it's always like
Sure.
the two law firms. It's like after a while,
Yep.
like there's no way I'm forgetting that billboard, right?
Yeah.
So they see these peptides, and nowadays there's like there's so many you can't even keep track of,
Yep.
you know, to where the top coaches know 80-90% of them. Some of them I don't know what they are, and I got to be honest, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like they haven't been around for 20 years. Like I don't really care what some of the odd ones are
Yeah.
because the old way works. But nowadays, people, it's like, okay, all right, so I'm taking Motzi, I'm taking Retta, I'm taking Sloop, I'm taking BPC, and they're asking me what else do I need to
Are
add?
you reading all the things that I'm taking, or what are you like? Is this from our text?
Yeah.
All right, take notes here. So they're asking me like, what do I need to add? And I'm like, we're not even at a place where peptides should even be in the
Yeah.
mix. Like, you don't even meal prep.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we start with the meal prep and then do you check in on time? Like those two
Yep.
questions need to like supersede the peptides.
Yeah. I think we all see the same thing. Um, the peptide phenomenon, I think it's here for now. I think it's going to pass a little bit. And I'm not saying they're all complete snake oil, or they're all complete garbage. I think they have specific purposes. But I do not think that people should be just staying on every mitochondrial possible enhancer under the sun long term. I think they're going to have some negative implications, which is why if I use them, it's for a specific purpose and it's usually cycled for a duration and then pulled out. I mean, I can't tell you. There's a lot of people that come to me and they've been on for the last year SS31, MOTS-C, SLU, BAM 15, 5 amino, like all these different things, thinking like that's going to be the answer. And my answer is always like, why don't we just stop all that and we'll just start? Let me save you some money to start with, right? Let's just stop all that. And they're like, well, what about my mitochondrial health? What about this? I'm like, look. I've been able to get people in shape before anyone even like knew how to spell those letters. Like, relax. You know what I mean? It's like they did a great job creating a need. They did a great job with creating, and I guess a lot of it, because I was going to say when one of you mentioned a minute ago, when the influencers kids are like making these videos about exercises and stuff, I'm like, does anyone actually watch them? Because I don't like I just scroll past. I don't watch shit like that. Same thing when someone is like, Mott C, what it does, blah blah blah. They're making this whole choreograph like I guess infomercial thing, um, which is kind of funny because it seems like either everyone's just going to Chat GPT and copying the same like 6 points, or they're just copying each other and like just redoing the graphics. But yeah, if there's one peptide I think is, I would say solidly safe, is, maybe necessary. I mean, nothing's necessary. I think BPC. I do think, anything that lowers inflammation. I haven't seen a dose yet that causes a negative side effect. And I do see it with self and others rapidly improving or healing injuries and tissue damage. So I think out of all of them, the most innocuous one is probably the best one. It doesn't have any purported ergogenic benefits like the Mott C or any of the other stuff, but I think that one's going to stand the test of time. But when we say peptides back in the day, it was like GH and insulin, right? It's like those are still like the only real ones that are going to put actual muscle on your body.
Hmm.
Chris knows I love peptides. I absolutely love them. But
You?
there's like it's a different sense to me where like I do a lot of things in my life that I feel like I'm trying to keep my longevity, my health, and I look at something like that where I think a lot of people in this sport, and again, I feel like the influence thing has taken over a little bit because people have, they got their promo codes, they're attached to somebody, so they're making money. So all of a sudden they've become like, I swear they're just reading a script because they haven't. There's no way they've memorized what all these things do because it's very like there's a lot of information there. But I think we also exist in a sport where people will look for anything, even if you're like, listen, if you take this peptide, it's gonna improve you by 0.1%.
Yeah.
Sign me up, take my money.
Yeah.
Even though they still like we're missing the basics. We're skipping meals, right? We talk about they blow their off season in the first 72 hours after a show. They haven't taken a set to failure in 7 years. But if it's something so simple, they'll do it. So like I rotate different peptides that I stack, but there's not anything that I take that I'm like, this is enhancing, my bodybuilding physique. You know what I mean? Like I look at them, and when I read the research and look what they can do, I'm looking for other effects. Like you mentioned, like SS31, I feel like has some incredible benefits for your kidneys and stuff like that. I don't look at these things like they're shredding fat or they're building muscle, with the
No.
exception of the staples that have existed for 20 years.
Yeah. And I say all that as someone that, like, I work with a company, I've got a discount code, but I also tell everyone, like, hey, if you use this code, I'm getting 10% back. So,
Yeah.
like, I think there needs to be an honesty factor there because, well, when some of these companies, they're just, influencers are pushing peptides, they got a huge following. It's just a numbers game, right? If
Yeah.
you've got 100,000 followers and only 1% of your people literally are making a purchase every day, that's a massive amount of money you're making off that. So there
Yeah.
there is an incentive there. So I just make sure I always tell people, yeah, I work with this company and the owner of the company. I think if you're interested in really learning more, like I'm good on a peripheral level. This guy, I've done calls with him so deep and in depth that my head, I'm like, wow, like you really understand the science. Like you can relate it to situations, what kind of clients it might be good for. And he's not just like reading a script kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think also trying to give the education to people on why we would want to use this at a particular time. That's important as well.
Yeah, kind of going off that just super briefly, Andrew. I have clients that, they have friends that are working with a different coach or a different team, and they're like, yeah, and some of this stuff gets back to me, and they were kind of explaining their frustration, like their peptide stack is like more than all of their other gear combined,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
upwards of 700. And I'm like, okay, that's the problem. That's where like you're just like a discount code, and you're
Yeah.
just you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like there's no
Yeah.
coaching there. You're just another paycheck, at
Well,
that
think
point.
about that. If that person has, I don't know, 10 people that they're doing that with was $700 a month. Let's just throw a number out there. That's $70 coming in
Yeah.
times 10. That's 700 extra dollars they're making a month just off 10 people, right? So you put that to scale with 100 clients, you can see how that could be a big part of someone's income. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't, everything's commission, everything's referral based, everything is, that's how the world works. But um, yeah, I just think being honest with people. So you're like, okay,
Well,
I'm
and
not
like
just
you
trying to give you
said,
five. What's that?
like you said, you trust the company that
Yeah,
you have a code with. I
yeah,
think some people are like, oh, sign me up, like any company, right?
yeah,
You
yeah. Oh,
see
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of people that got codes for 18 things on every
yeah,
post, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you're just
You see that a lot. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
like you don't believe in any of these companies. You're just looking for some payback.
It's
But I
kind of
think
like,
if someone has like a belief in a company and like, no, this is a peptide company I trust. Use it. Here's a code. It'll save you money. I trust it. I
it's
don't think
kind
there's
of
anything wrong with that.
like the top bodybuilders. I'm not gonna put them on blast, but like changes supplement companies like
Mhm.
every 6 months based off who's the highest bidder. And
Yeah.
every month, this is the best company. It's like you go from HD to Hostel to Raw to some foreign company back to another one. It's like I tell people with supplements, I'm like, yeah, I work with Granite. John Meadows was a friend.
Mhm.
All the supplements out there, as long as they're, third party tested, they're all the same shit. It's
Mhm.
all coming from three main factories that are manufacturing this stuff. It's all the same ingredients. Most of the raws come from a couple different places. It's just really like what flavor do you like the most? And in my case, at least for the longest time, it was always the cheapest. Like
Mhm.
if you know product A and product B are the exact same thing, I'm going with the cheaper one. I don't care about the image or even the flavor half the time of the other product because I grew up poor and for me it was like I need to save money. Bodybuilding's expensive. It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
even more expensive today with peptides for sure.
Oh yeah. We always tell our people too, like, we have, a template that we'll send new clients and the template changes. Like you guys know, like
Mhm.
something new comes out, a new peptide, new supplement, this and this. But one of the cool things, at least about us, like we'll try anything when it comes to supplements, like the latest like, the proteins, we like reviewing proteins, this and that. So
Yep.
like, hey, let us waste our money. We'll
Yeah.
tell you if it's good or not. And
Yeah.
like, we give recommendations. So like, Kirchhoff knows like Evogen EVP. I have yet to find anything better that creates like the sickest, crazy looking pump and vascularity.
No.
And I always tell people, hey, try it. Here's our code. If you don't like it, I can give you a few other recommendations,
Yeah.
but like we're not saying like this is the only way, like you
Yeah.
have to use our code, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Evogen's probably spiking their pump product with like Cialis or something, kind of like Gaspari back in the day with
Dude.
Gaspari used to put T3 and Clen in his fat burner. He used to
Oh,
put actual raw test powder into the pro hormones and all that shit.
Hmm. Yeah, you remember way back there was one of them that was not Gaspari, I don't think, but it was spiked with D-ball, and like
Um,
was it Twin Lab?
I don't think it was Twin Lab, but I
Okay.
think it was I don't think they're around anymore.
Yeah. But it was
Ah,
like the first X amount of batches, and then everyone was like, "Holy shit, this stuff is amazing!" Now they're
yep,
a client for life, they're a customer,
yep.
and then of course eventually they got caught,
A big peptide company just got caught recently. But they were actually faking COAs. So they were actually selling garbage, right? And that was their defense when they got arrested was that they're like, oh, we're not even selling real drugs, which I think should be a double crime. I think you should get a crime for selling the drug, even though it's not real, but also for fraud because
Yeah.
you're defrauding people's hard-earned money. I feel like that should be worse than just selling the drug illegally, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
they're like how we shouldn't. Nothing happened to us. They're not even supposed to use it. These are just for research purposes.
I don't
Why
know
were
if you
they using it?
were,
If they
were
were
you guys
using
on
it, if they were using it, then they went against what we said they're supposed to do with it.
were you
Mhm.
guys ever on the forums back in the
Oh yeah.
day?
Oh yeah.
So you remember it was always like, well, I gave my pet rat 2 units of this, and then I gave him
Yes.
30 milligrams of that. And because everyone was so scared, the FBI is watching. The FBI, they're going to bust us for using drugs, and it was all we had to talk about our research chemicals being used on rats. It was the funniest thing.
Yeah, I remember that. And then, in your signature, you had to put the disclaimer that all of this is, for,
I think we froze
you know,
up.
I think we're back.
I think it froze up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, he did.
Oh no.
Okay, we're back, I think. Yeah, we're good. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we're good. Yeah,
the
yeah.
forums that was an interesting time, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I credit a lot of my real education from that. I went to, university to study dietetics and nutrition food science and got degrees in it. And I say that that was like 5% of the knowledge for bodybuilding. You know what I mean? Like the majority of the knowledge came from the forums and just personal experimentation,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, we talked about this, I think, on the last pod, but like, me and Kirkhoff were roommates and training partners, and like whoever got back from class would jump on the Get
Oh,
Big
cool.
forum, and it would be like, "Oh my gosh, did you see Cutler posted a picture?" And he only posted like three pictures out of like a 16-week prep, and then the picture would go viral, it would just go
Yeah.
crazy, and it was a different time because like you'd only get a few updates. Sometimes you wouldn't see any updates from Coleman like the whole way.
Yeah, no, I don't think you ever, I feel like the magazines were the only way you really saw Ronnie Coleman. I don't think he never got on the forums or no one in his camp. Usually it's someone in their camp that would like, hey, do you mind if I post these, and I feel like
Right.
that's kind of how those pictures got out usually. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was always about who was willing to strip down at the press conference and finally
Yeah.
show what they got.
Hmm. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. Well, this has been a good one, man. We appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun hanging with you guys.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know, like you said, if we don't see you at one of these shows, maybe we can link up at USA's.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be at USA's this year. I've got Sid Ray, and I'll probably get a couple others to come. I try to, stack a few all at once to make it worth it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Um, but how do you guys like Vegas? I was going to ask you that.
Dude, I mean, we just love it, man. It's I tell people it's a dream come true. It's when you live in like Minneapolis where it's -20 and like you felt that from day to day, it's a different level of like morale is just up here now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it's like it's crazy too because I'll talk with Kirkhoff or a few other buddies and like they're like, Chris, you just sound so happy now. And it's true. Like I'm every day I get up and I'm thankful. It's like sun's out, it's beautiful. I'm like, this is the life.
I can relate, man. I mean, I'm from Vermont, right?
Yeah.
And what, 3 or 4 years ago, we moved down to Florida, and it was the best thing we ever did for work productivity. Like,
Hmm.
just the energy, sunlight, the mood, just being around, everyone's happy and everyone is happy where it's warm and sunny out. Like that's just a fact. Like
That's it.
that's what I've experienced, and that's what and I'm joining that crew. So
Yeah. Love to hear it, man.
absolutely.
Well, cool. Yeah. Thanks again, man. I'll let you know when we fire it up. Maybe it's within tomorrow or the next few days.
Okay, cool. Awesome.